story is a living passion.
Hi, my name's Rex Beanland, and welcome to this week's painting demonstration. I'm doing a local scene here in Calgary of the neighbourhood of Kensington. Colors I'm using, perhaps a neutral tint, perhaps some dioxazine purple, burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad red light, cad orange, some Chinese white, yellow ochre, possibly cad yellow light, viridian, permanent green light, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, cerulean blue. Okay, I'm starting off just making a light gray mixture here. Mixing some primaries with extra blue. And then going over the entire sky. It seems a little strong, so I've just added a bit of water to it. Right over everything. Just down to these sort of pennants or flags they're going to be kept white. And then down to the horizon line. I just thought that I'd like to put some red in the sky. Maybe try and get a little bit of a sunset thing happening, just lightly. I'm bringing that wash down to the top, going around the vehicles, going around the people. Now I'm taking pure water and just trying to get that wash to run a little bit. This section is going to be very light. And now I carry on with some color. Seems fairly strong at this point, but by the end, when it's dry, it won't. I'm just getting a few directional things happening here. Now just carrying on with this wash, going right around the people. Okay, now I let this dry, and now I'm mixing up a darker gray for the buildings. Okay, so I'm really pushing that brush into the papers so that the brush will define the tree shapes. That's working with the brush, letting it do what it naturally does. Then just carrying on, a little bit darker towards the top of some of these buildings. That's where you have the greatest contrast with the sky, the light sky. Again, going around these pennants or banners. And now you notice I'm not going right down to the sidewalk because I want to have that section darker, so to draw your eye down towards the center of interest. So I'm leaving that. Now I'm mixing a darker gray with burnt sienna and ultramarine. And I also want to leave a lot of these little specks of white. I want to leave those. They will add a lot of interest later on. Okay, again mixing triads plus other things to just get a bit of a different gray. And then on this building, I'm going to leave a few shapes white for now that I'll fill in later. Just a little bit too dark, so I have to kind of reduce that a little bit. Again, I'm leaving some space at the bottom. I'll come in with this darker wash for as we're right down to sort of the center of interest area, the bottom of the building. You can see those white specks of white are really standing out now. And similar wash. For this building that's closest, because it should have some of the darkest areas to lead your eye into the painting. Now, this building, it just seems to me to be maybe a touch dark, so I'm taking my 1/2 inch flat, squeezing all the water out so it becomes a thirsty brush, and then lifting out some of that paint. Get a little separation between these first two buildings. And then going back on some of those shapes I lifted out, which will eventually become windows. Okay, now we're going to move over to the other side. And you'll notice this alizarin crimson, I often put it in its own little well to start off because it's such a strong color. I like to see it there before I mix it. Okay, again, I'm pushing the brush into the paper so that it can do what it does best and kind of naturally define a tree shape. And then I'm taking pure water and bleeding that wash into the background. And that will appear as if the scene is disappearing into the distance. And this side of the road I would actually like to be slightly more prominent than the other side, slightly darker. My wash, you can see, is a little bit redder than the other side. And again, I want to try and keep some of this dry brush. It just adds real nice contrast to everything. So this is a little bit of wet and wet. Some of these darks I put on wet and wet. And that's so that they will bleed a little bit and not be too hard-edged. little strip for the curb. And just some using the brush in different ways to get some stuff, debris, and everything that's on the roadway. And then the car, starting off with a dark blue mixture, then some pure cad orange, a little bit of yellow ochre. Just reinforce the blue. I want it to blend together a little bit. Then I'm taking this neutral tint, which is very, very dark, and using that for that very important shadow under the car and a little bit on the bottom of the car. Now for the windshield, I'm putting a light wash of really just dirty water, and then I take a darker mixture and just drop it into that wash so that it'll run and blend around. Very attractive effect. Some tail lights. Move over to this car and kind of do it the same way. You'll notice I'm leaving white sort of on the top of the hood and on the top of the trunk. Again, just a light wash of dirty water in the windshield. And there I'm just adding pure water just to get that wash to break it up just a little bit. Now my neutral tint for the wheels and that all-important shadow underneath. Just straighten that out a bit. Okay, then it's important not to get too lazy here and actually take the time to detail all of these cars, even though they're way back there. So I'm using basically the same technique. Yeah. And then there is a bus back coming up the road. So I'm taking our cobalt teal with some Chinese white, just doing some calligraphy strokes on this pennant, on these pennants, and then just clean that off. And now I'm taking Chinese white and some cad yellow light. It goes well with the cobalt teal and the ones in the background. Some cad red light for the faces of the figures. Putting some jackets on them. So I'm leaving the legs. I like to let this top part dry because I'm going to try and get dry brush for the legs, and if this is too wet, it'll just bleed into the legs. Yeah, so it's dry, and now I can kind of get a dry brush. Little shadow. And then just coloring some of those white speckles that I left. And here I'm doing lettering for the title, the name of this building, Point. And then this building, or these windows, I don't want them to be all white, so I'm going to just put sort of a background wash in them. And I'll add to that later. And then these light poles. Just a little bit less intense for the ones at the back there. I'm just going to detail a little bit of this building. And again, a few darks right where my center of interest. And then where I have some of the white little sparkles, I kind of am accenting them with the dark underneath, and it makes them look like something. And then just taking some light washes of various colors to go over some of these spots, give a little color to it. Then the bottom of the banners. This window seems to me a little bit dark, so I've tried to lift it out a little bit. Now again, just detailing the banners a bit. Wherever I have a bit of white showing through, it gives me a chance to do something with it, and adds, more interest to the painting. A little bit of writing on that building. Darken my figures. Now I'm just putting a little bit of, not really a shadow, but the darker part on the sidewalk and under the arch there. I'm just testing because I want some dry brush, some directional lines for the road. And I'm just trying to detail the road a little bit. Just make it look like more of a used road. Now, one thing that I don't actually show in this video, right towards the end, in fact at the very end, I took a little bit of a dark blue, moderately dark blue wash and put it all over the road, just at the bottom, right in the foreground. Okay, so again, I'm just adding details to make the road look used. Shadow under the car. Little splatter. Some more detailing there. I'm taking my dagger brush and I'm just going to do some holding it right near the end and get some, put a bit of a tree up here. And then take my nice pointed brush, which also will give a neat leaf effect. And a few of the obligatory birds, which actually serve a purpose to break up that big sky shape. I'm just taking a little bit of pure Chinese white just to emphasize a few of the lights on some of the figures and a bit on the car. Then I'm going to, this is a sign pointing one way up this sort of alley. So I do it in neutral tint first, then with Chinese white I put the arrow on. It also serves to direct your eye into the painting. Little Chinese white for the headlights. And then there are traffic lights disappearing into the distance. So now I'm mixing Chinese white, permanent green light, a little cobalt teal to get a nice bright green for the traffic lights.